Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Sunday talk within the NineSided Circle. I'm one of your two hosts, Nor Kyle.
And I'm the other one of your two hosts, Mushtaq Ali.
Yes, and we are continuing to report to you live from our beautiful Airbnb that we love so much. And we're still on the road, obviously. The journey continues.
The journey is liable to continue for a while.
Yeah.
And we were thinking about, why do we want to live in one place? Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, we've talked about the nomadism that is sort of, tied in with Sufism. And we may be living that reality before long. And we're going to be sharing more about that as it develops. But that is feeling like a pretty good solution to a number of our dilemmas these days, as we've discussed in previous talks around our living space and our personal finances and all of that stuff, because it is so expensive to live where we are, and the availability has proven to be a challenge.
That's a nice word.
Yeah, I love that word. It's so open-ended, right? And we want to find creative ways to overcome that. So that's going to be an ongoing discussion between us, of course, and with
you
all
guys.
of you. Yeah. Yep. So, what else should we share?
We share anything?
I mean, like announcements.
Announcements, yes. Well, there's the usual, hey, like our video. Subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment. We love your comments.
And we've been forgetting to say this the past couple times because we've been so caught up in our own
Unlike
stuff.
most channels, we are not trying to get to 50 million subscribers. If we did not get any more subscribers and just kept the ones we had, we would be fine. And at the same time, we would love to have more subscribers because you guys are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we'll try and remember to remind people, subscribe to our video, subscribe to the video.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's the necessary. I don't want to say evil. It's not evil, but it's a necessary annoyance for all of us, right? People are always like, don't do that part. Oh, it's so annoying. I just want to see the video. But I mean, that is part of how we sustain ourselves. So thank you for having compassion for that.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing that we can mention is because we are starting a new phase of the NineSided Circle as of today. And as part of that, we have opened a coffee account. So if anybody likes, you can either just drop a couple of dollars in that, as they say, buy us a cup of coffee. We love our coffee. She doesn't love our coffee.
No, I
love our coffee as much.
You can like it for both of us. Yes. So yeah, you can do a one-off of any size, or you can do a monthly donation of any size. As big or small as
all of which goes to
for you.
Support our work and allow us to do much more fun content. Yeah,
and for us to, I mean, we are human beings living our human being lives, believe it or not. We have to work within the real world limitations of our physical bodies, and each of us have some challenges in that sense. So we are doing our best to keep ourselves going, I guess we could say. I mean, I don't mind being vulnerable about that. The fact is that we have been, as of late, struggling, and we have to find ways to how would you phrase it?
I wouldn't phrase it.
Yeah, we have to find ways to keep this work sustainable. Yeah. That's how I would put it.
Yeah, so there's that.
Yes. In the meantime, though, I still have openings for one-on-ones, and
I actually have a couple now too.
Good. I would be so excited to work with people because
didn't-
that's one of my favorite things to do.
Didn't we decide we were going to do a special?
Yes.
Let me tell you about the special. If you are wondering whether or not you would like to work for us or work with us, you can work for us too. We have plenty of jobs. If you would like to work with us, but you're not sure because we may actually be crazy, you can get one session with us if you're a new person at half price. Wow. Yeah, usually, I mean, we're inexpensive compared to everybody else anyway, but usually it's $100 a session for one-on-one work.
Yeah.
$150 a session for two-on-one work.
That's when you can have a session with both of us and you'll get to dialogue with both of us in real time.
Which is a little overwhelming usually.
It can be, but some people are interested in, having time with both of us together. And that's an option we just offer to people.
Yeah. But for the next month, next 30 days, you can get a session with us for $50.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Such a deal.
So, we are particularly motivated because we are moving into our next living space and, you got to do the whole first, last, all of that stuff. So full transparency.
Give us all your money.
Yeah. But we're also trying to, as Mushtaq said, move into our next phase where we continue to deepen our commitment to the work as well. This is part of that. This is, this teaching thing is our expression of our personal work as much as it is helping others. Yeah. All right. Moving on.
All right, what are we going to talk about tonight? We
are talking about something that's actually a nice, this is kind of a lead into our context for what we do. As the NineSided Circle, we framed it as a virtual monastery. A digital durga is another way that we put it sometimes. This is a school that is both virtual and non-virtual. What is the real life? I don't know how that word is used typically. Non-virtual. What's the word for that?
That's a good question.
How about in person?
In person, yes, perfect. Thanks. So we've done our real-time retreat, our in-person retreat this last month in Sweden, and IRL. Yes, James, thank you. And we're also going to be doing the virtual retreat every year, like we usually do. This year, it's going to be in I think like end of August through early October. But anyways, our context, how do we make sense of what we're doing?
Yeah.
Why is it important to us?
Yeah. And why is context important?
Yeah. So what was that definition of context? Do you want to?
The definition of context.
As we're using it.
Yeah, that's the one that we put up. Yeah, so this is right out of the Oxford Unabridged. And context, noun, the circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea, and in terms of which it can be fully understood and assessed.
Yeah.
I like that last part in particular.
Understood and assessed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we say context, that's what we're talking about. You need to plug that in?
Nope.
Okay, never mind.
So I would say one of the foundational observations, if we want to use a stronger word than assumptions, is that human beings, as it stands today, are living in a pretty constant state of walking sleep, of somnambulance.
Somnambulance. I love
It's a
that
big
word.
word. Yeah. So what do we mean when we say that?
That means that we as a species have fallen prey to the sleep of the machine. You know, people more and more are stimulus response meat machines. They're not operating from their being, they're operating from their machine, their ego.
Yeah. And that seems like a harsh assessment, but I think about how that shows up in my own
Yeah.
life, and I see it in other people, the way
It
they,
may be harsh, but it's accurate.
yeah,
You look at the world today and you look at everybody out there with whatever signs they are waving around
Mhm.
for whatever it is that they think is important.
Right.
And you realize that they're all asleep.
Right. So some really obvious realms you'll be able to observe this in are anything related to politics, typically, and anything,
Related to religion,
yes,
anything related to interpersonal interaction, pretty much anything.
social media.
Social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed that once you get to know the people on your social media list, you know exactly how they're going to react to whatever stimulus? You ever notice that? It's the creepiest thing when you realize that if I say this, this person is going to respond this way, this person is going to respond this way, and this person is going to respond this way. And it's uncannily accurate.
So why is this a problem?
Because it's robotic. They aren't thinking, they're just responding.
Mhm.
They're just reacting. You know, I could go on my Facebook page and say, Trump sucks. And there would be some people who would agree, some people who disagree. And if I say Trump is great, I'm going to get the same polarities just reversed.
Right.
And nobody would even think to go, oh, why do you think this?
So I would say the core of this issue is that there's no sense of agency involved.
Yes.
There's no sense of conscious choice happening. There's no weighing of consequences, really.
Yeah. So part of the context that we are working from is the idea that people are asleep. And if we want to survive as a species in a happy, healthy way, a bunch of us have to wake up. We have to wake from the somnambulistic dreaming that people do.
Yeah. And we talked earlier about being in kind of a down cycle.
Yeah, it's getting worse as far as I can tell. I mean, I've been around for a while, right? So I've been watching this for some decades now, and I truly think it is getting worse. And we see it mostly worse in politics. Politics is so incredibly polarized now that it is almost inevitable that we're going to have Civil War 2.0.
Mm. Now, I don't have that degree of ability to observe through life experience, but I know that I have heard from many that they feel an intense sense of pressure, self-consciousness, unease, that, you know, our previous generations did not exactly experience to the same degree.
No.
Yeah.
Can I throw in a couple of things?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, one is what I call the rise of troll culture, the normalization of cruelty.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
that's
also have mush tax baseline, but I know people did not used to be as publicly nasty as they are now.
no. There's a reasons for that, because you had to be nasty in person pretty much, or in the newspapers, and there were consequences. We have taken away all consequences, and so that behavior can just blossom like a stinking weed.
There's that. The other thing is just another area of reflexiveness. Is something like if you ask for a particular kind of advice, people jump in and they ignore what you ask for.
Yeah, that's always amusing.
Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Common phenomenon on
Yeah.
social media. I've definitely noticed that.
Now, that is the matrix around which we're working. Within that, what we notice is that the old methods that were used to wake people up no longer are as effective as they used to be. Some of them are downright ineffective, and a lot of them are completely moribund.
Mm.
The Gurdjieff work is virtually dead. And that's probably as it should be. The way that it was structured for snooty Russian aristocrats of the 19th century and early 20th century. That was the target audience for that. And those people ain't around anymore. And if you look at Gurdjieff groups today, Cherie can speak to this, they're all old people. There are not young people into groups. And that's problematic because their techniques, their methodologies don't speak to the younger generations. And this is true for a lot of different methodologies. And so we need to upgrade in order to produce circumstances under which people can awaken themselves.
Yeah. And, relevant to our work, given that we call ourselves Sufis, we see the same issues happen in
Oh yeah,
Sufism as well.
Sufism is a mess. Sufism is a bunch of guys in funny hats trying to talk like they're Arabs when they were born in Brooklyn. I coined the phrase museum Sufis a while ago, and that's mostly what we got.
People trying to live through the lens of the past.
Yeah. And the entire methodology that was valid 1,000 years ago is not so much anymore. That's very heretical for me to say.
They're up in arms already. Yeah.
Going to be having a lot of Sufis in turbans praying for my ruination.
Well, it's hard because we do not fit the mold.
No.
And that is because we prefer to be ourselves. And we consider that an important reflection.
Neither of us can be Batman, so we might as well be ourselves.
Yeah. And by that, I mean, like, we are not trying to put on a performance of, I am a Sufi, wearing that as like a kind of garment of personality. And this gets into deep stuff in the sense that we are trying to very much live in the now and present ourselves as we are in the now.
Yeah. So part of our context is that we have to do a complete overwrite of some of the traditional methods of teaching. For instance, the top-down hierarchical methods that were popular 1,000 years ago, where you have the sheikh, and then you have people beneath him, and then people beneath them, people beneath them, is no longer valid as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, that's the vertical authority structure. Yeah.
If we want to produce a group of people that can help the world wake up, it needs to be a horizontal teaching structure. We've talked about this.
Yeah, we've done a whole talk on this at least twice, so we can offer links to that.
And that's part of the context of the NineSided Circle, is that we are creating a horizontal, inclusive methodology for teaching where you don't have to do fanafishech, which is where you lose yourself in the teacher. That is counterproductive anymore. And we can see that in the proliferation of pseudo gurus out in the world that just run cults of personalities. The cult of personality is anathema to the work.
Agreed. Yep. Some of you from the retreat may remember me saying, you know, if you're here for the teacher, you came here for the wrong reason.
Yep.
And that's because the focus really needs to be on
the focus needs to be on the work.
The work.
Yes.
Yeah. Essentially, we'll use the word, the work, as a stand-in for all the things that go into your path, your process of waking up, your experience of waking up. Because honestly, it is kind of one of those things where when you feel it, when you understand what that is, it's yours. It's yours to keep.
Yeah. And it's you guys that have to do it. You know, Nora can be the most awake person on the planet, and that does you zero good. Does me no good either, because she's always right then.
It's also not always going to feel good. And I think that people find that challenging as well, because in a time where there's so much that feels so bad, it makes perfect sense to me that people are looking for the high of an ecstatic feel-good experience with the dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin hits that often are part of that. It's the fact that it's so easy to have that be the be-all, end-all. That is where we end up stuck. Because that does not make the world a better place. Feeling good all the time does not make the world a better place. That takes more self-reflection. That takes more investment in situations that are win-wins for everybody, not just you. Not just the people who are closest to you. But in a whole picture sense, everybody gets the opportunity to not only have feel-good experiences and feel joy and enjoyment, but also learn about what right action is, how to treat each other well. That gets into the human adulthood stuff that we talk about, where you're able to practice compassion in an active way. It's not just theoretical for you. It takes discipline to get to a point where that becomes second nature to you.
So, in the context of the Nine-Sided Circle, what we are trying to do is develop teachers. And that doesn't mean that you have to teach the way we teach. The really wonderful thing about this is that the material that we are passing out can be used for anything. So, Cherie does stretch therapy and body work and stuff. And what we are doing is she can take parts of that and work with her students and help them wake up. Our friend Brian runs a gym. And
yeah, his Road Dojo.
Yeah, and he can take this material and use it with his people. All of you have the potential to help change the world, and you don't have to do it under anybody else's authority.
Yeah, I mean, we have writers, we have clinical therapists, we have
Beach bums.
physical trainers, beach bums. Yeah, we have people who work in finance. There's so many places where you never know how you can apply what you learn through doing the work.
Yeah.
and through staying awake.
And so basically, that's what we expect out of people who work with us, is that they take what they learn and they apply it in the world. And if they find somebody who they would benefit from, they're like, hey, did you know that if you practice breath control, your life will get better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then that's good. We have made qualitative change.
Yeah.
We don't need to make quantitative change anymore. There doesn't need to be more schools, more gurus, more teachers. There needs to be change in people. And Osama has a question.
Yep.
Lay it on us, Osama.
Yes, hello. My question, so it seems that the essence of the work stays the same, is constant, where the form of the work is changing depending on the context, depending on the moment, depending on the times.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
When it comes to the form, are you suggesting that certain practices are no longer applicable? My question is, are the practices changing, or is the form which the practices live, is that what's changing? The context which the practices are being presented?
Yeah, the practices in their essence are valid, but sometimes they have to be presented in a way that is more effective for this time and this place. So a halwat, where you go off and you spend 40 days in a cave, is a lot harder to do now than it was 1,000 years ago. And so we have virtual halwat. That's what we're doing with our every
Virtual
year we
retreat.
do our virtual retreat. It's a way to do that retreat without having to throw your life up in the air.
And people think, there's two ways to look at that, right? Oh, it's easier because you're not leaving the house. It's harder because you're immersed in all of the distractions of normal life while creating sacred space for yourself in time. And that's challenging. You are asked to change habits while still in your everyday living environment, and you're not setting yourself apart physically. So you have to navigate all the usual obstacles with a little bit extra. And at the same time, because we're doing it in community during those periods, that's often what makes it easier to get through, because you're not doing it alone. And at a time when we're so separated from one another, having time for community is what is called for more often than not.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's one way this can manifest. Yeah.
And there's a big place in this for it to manifest in the arts, which it hasn't done in a while.
Yeah.
So if you know anybody who's a musician, you might find they might find some use in this. Osama, he said, looking right at you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we have members who do visual arts,
Yeah.
and Chris is doing permaculture, among other things. And that's another way to
what would you call that? Transformation of place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And all these tendrils expand out from these little things that we do. And we may never fully, each of us may never fully know the impact that we're having. But if it comes from a place that is rooted in your being awake, in your being a human adult, then it's pretty much inevitable that beautiful things are going to come out of it for others as well as for you. So I think it might be good to talk a bit about the specifics of our context as the nine-sided circle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've already described us as kind of a virtual monastery, we don't have a physical place that you all can come to, and yet we do have this sense of locality to us, of sharing space and time.
That's a unique thing that has never been a reality in the world before. When I first taught, everything was local because there was no internet. And so if you wanted to attend a class, you had to go to where the class was or bring the teacher to you. And that means you were very, very limited in the people that you could draw from.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, we're talking Australia, Tasmania, Arizona, the hell that is New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Yeah, all over the place. That's never been able to happen before. I mean, if you were a rich corporation, you could arrange for conference calls. But this is different than that. We're basically sitting in each other's living rooms. And in real life, we wouldn't be able to fit them all in here.
Not in this space. But yeah, I mean, that technology often gets a bad rap. But when we appreciate it from that point of view, it is miraculous that we are able to build the kinds of connections we're able to build, the kinds of relationships we're able to build as a result of the technology that we have access to. That's a huge blessing. And it allows us to get a feel for each other as human beings. I mean, that's another thing about us, is that we are looking for people who are the right fit for our flavor of the work, as opposed to just trying to suck anybody and everybody into the ecosystem.
Yeah, and that's a very important part of the context of the nine-sided circle. Is this work is not for everybody. In order to do this work, you have to have specific qualities. One of which is that you have to be relatively healthy. If you're dealing with major life trauma, this is probably not where you want to be. And if you are, you can let us know that, and we'll recommend to you people who work specifically with that we know are good and will not take advantage of you. We have a growing list of practitioners of one form or another who we have vetted and know are not worthless pieces of shit.
We're going to treat you badly, mislead you,
and get you to join a cult.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, who share values with us, even if they do completely different work. Yeah. And that's why we don't fear technology.
Yeah.
We tend to be friendly towards it, I guess we could say. And this has allowed us to have a really interesting difference between us and communities of the past. Us, I mean us collectively, of course, and also us as teachers, in that back in the old days, as you mentioned before, you had to travel huge distances to get to this teacher that you heard about this one time from some traveler through town.
Yeah, when I was coming up, for a long time, it was a 2-hour drive one way to get to where my teacher would be when he was in the area. And I mean, that's a consideration. And yes, I could do that. You know, it was nearly 100 miles. And I had a car, so I could do that. But think about if you had to walk to meet your teacher 100 miles away from you, or ride a horse.
Travel by caravan.
Yeah.
And you didn't even know who you were going to meet at the end of that journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine? You hear about this great teacher, and they're in Mecca, and you're in Al-Andalus. And so you go and you find caravans to take you there. It's a year-long journey to get to Mecca. And then you meet this guy and you go, he's an idiot. I can't study with him.
He's a terrible person.
Yeah. And you've just wasted a year of your life getting there.
And sure, you might have learned a lot along the way, but damn, what a ripoff, right? Yeah, poor fit, bad fit, unethical person, perhaps, that you do not want to learn from or have influence over you. And what a shame.
Yeah, and that's a story that has played out more than once. I mean, it even played out in my youth, where you could travel to India, right? Or you could travel to Egypt or Jordan or places where there were supposedly teachers. And it wasn't as bad as taking a caravan for a year, but you get there and it's not what you're looking for. So you've just spent days and weeks and hundreds of dollars getting to where you're going, and it didn't pay off. Now you can have a Zoom call. And if we're idiots, you know that, and you can go away. You haven't lost anything but an hour of time. Life is good.
Yep. Also pretty miraculous that.
Yeah.
But again, just as with the retreat, that puts the onus on you to be committed to the process and not take it for granted. And that's a lesson in itself. When it's that easy to access your teacher or instruction or whatever it is it may be, are you going to be able to value it? And that's a challenge of the times too, when everything is so easy access at the push of a button.
Yeah. So the context of the NineSided Circle is we train teachers. And we are not training teachers under us, because who wants that kind of responsibility? We're training teachers who then take this and go out in the world and do their own thing. And all that requires is that you wake up. You become an adult, awake individual. And you do that all on your own work. This is not something that we can give you, as much as we would like to. We would like to go, you're enlightened. I can do that. You're enlightened.
Wow, thanks.
Yeah.
So that is our model, essentially, that we teach teachers so that they can go on to teach others.
Cherie has a question.
Yeah.
I don't have a question as such, that I want to say that in my experience of working with you both for the last 4+ years, the maturation of the work is still attractive to me, is still something that I find where you don't have a big stick in dealing with all of us. Well, not with me. And
With anybody.
but it's more like a nudge, and you get, it's a very strong suggestion and a nudge to do something, and you figure it out and you think, all right, I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to give this a go. And there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. There's nothing wrong with making a poor choice, because then it helps you decide, oh, that's a better choice. I'll go this way or this way. So I find that with working with you guys, my own growth is starting to flavor my work. As you say, I'm doing stretch therapy, and I just recently pushed a little chicken out of the nest by saying, no, because she came up with the idea, I don't think I should be doing your next 10-week block. And I said, I don't think you should either. And it was like, oh, what? And I said, no. I said, no. I said, I think you should go away, give it a go yourself. And if you need any help, just give me a call or send me a message. But that's it. I said, this is time. It's time for you to go this way. And have that nudge. And it's part of the work that I do with you guys, that you give me that confidence not to hang on so tightly about where I'm at, because growth means you have to let something go to keep moving down the road. You know, you can't make that journey by staying in one spot. And so the process hasn't always been enjoyable, and it's not,
I know.
but it's not static. So that's the thing that I wanted to bring as someone who's experiencing the work.
Well, thank you.
That means a lot.
Yeah, and we didn't pay her to say that.
No. Not this time anyway.
Yeah.
But I think that sums it up quite beautifully, in that we do not want anyone to, we want people to be able to count on us. We want to be consistent. We want to be present. We want to be accessible as much as we can be.
And a resource.
Yes, absolutely. And we will hold your hand to some extent, because there are times and places where that is necessary to get us through the really hard stuff. And the really hard stuff certainly does come up. But we do not want anyone to become dependent on us in a childlike sort of way, where you become disenfranchised and disabled by our imposition on your sense of agency and choice and your capacity. We want to support you in growing that for yourself. That's what matters to us. And we do whatever we can to make that happen in a way that isn't going to hold you back.
That's right.
Yeah, because we obviously care, and we care deeply, but that always has to come from a place of seeing everyone we work with as a full human being and as an adult with agency.
Yeah, and as part of that, along with everything else, the NineSided Circle is creating community.
Yeah, and it is so awesome to have, not a lot of the people we meet in a day, even if they outwardly look like adults, do not
children.
behave
Yeah.
like adults at all. And it is so refreshing to have opportunities to share time, energy, space with fellow adults.
Yes. And people who are extraordinarily competent.
That's always nice too.
That's always nice. Yeah, we have a group of people around us that constantly impress me.
Who we learn so much from.
Yeah.
And who contribute so much to the wealth of knowledge and experience that this community shares.
And that's part of, again, the context of the school, is that it's a group of people who can support each other in doing the work, not just the two of us, but all of you.
Right. We get to share that load to quite an impressive extent. And while we are tending to, I guess we could call it the ecosystem and making sure it stays healthy and whole, that is not up to us alone.
No. And everybody offers the possibility of a reality check for everybody else, which is important.
Hell yeah.
And that includes us. I mean,
Right.
Nora and I reality check each other all the time in kind of gentle ways, but you know, we need to be checked by the school as much as the school needs to be checked by us.
Yeah.
So what other notes do we have here? Things we need to cover.
You know, one of our goals in teaching others to teach is to encourage people to do it as well or better than we do.
Oh yeah.
This is not about us being like,
We are
the
not
be-all,
at the top
end-all.
of the heap,
yeah,
and we are not special. There's well, she's kind of special, but there's absolutely nothing special about me.
except to me.
Yeah, but I'm just a regular person. I've had an interesting life,
Absolutely.
but it's not magical. It's not, there is nothing in my life that makes me exceptional. You know, angels did not come down and talk to me except in the 60s. Yeah.
I would add that you have a lot of stories to share
Yeah.
because you felt that having the experiences that led to those stories was part of your being an adult, being awake.
Yeah. But there's a pattern that you find in the old style teachers, which is, oh, I was special. I saw spirits when I was a child.
Yeah.
I can see auras. I can do all of this stuff. And I know, and you don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is an important point for me in that, you know, I do think that we serve as
Bad examples.
often, you know, we are kind of like, we are companions. We are waypointers.
Yeah.
But what we are not are native guides. We did not come out of the womb with whatever level of maturity and understanding we may or may not have now.
And that means that we can say, whatever it is that you see that we might have, you can have that.
Yeah.
You can have better than that. As
Yep.
opposed to the old style gurus who go, I am infinitely special because of my birth and circumstances. And you'll never be able to reach me, but you know, I'll let you hang out with me anyway.
Yeah. And I think the point I wanted to make is that the things that keep you from having whatever kind of life you want to have will be challenged when you take up the path of being awake, so that you will have exciting stories of your own if you desire that, and if that's something that is really a good fit for you.
Yeah, and if you don't have any, I'll sell you some of mine. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Cheap.
Yeah. Cheap.
Cheap.
So I think another thing that we should touch on is we teach people, and this is very important, given that we are working on getting people to move from a state of human childhood and move forward into a state of awakeness from this walking sleep. The core of that, like our driving concept, philosophy, heartfelt sense is that people need to be able to connect with the universe on their own.
Yeah, the baseline of what the nine-sided circle does is called Wahdat al-Wujud.
And this
Which-
is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's basically non-dualism in Arabic.
it
It means oneness of being.
yeah, unity of being.
Yeah,
And this idea did not originate with Ibn Arabi, but it is often attributed to him because he spoke so eloquently about
yeah,
the spirit of this idea.
yep. And so that is the basis from which we operate. And we say that everyone has the possibility of not just experiencing this, but living there.
Mhm.
You can have that. And most people don't really want it, but there are a few who do, and those who do should get.
And those are our people.
Yeah, them is our people, and we have skills and techniques that we can pass on that will help you to achieve that particular thing.
Yeah. And for us, that serves as our reason to be awake. I mean, why does any of this shit even matter if we're not holding that up as our reason for existing? Really, is this sense of unity and connectedness that goes beyond just trifling words and is about living that.
So that's what we have. That's what we offer.
Yeah.
That is the context of the school. The school is created in its essence to provide the circumstances in which you, as participants in the school, can experience that oneness, that unity of being, which is the foundational experience of the universe.
Mhm. Yeah. Because it's that conscious experience of unity that puts us in a position to deal with our mechanical stuff. And that comes up for all of us. So it's this connection with that sense of abiding unity that gives us a way to experience and observe the contrast between what it's like to be asleep and what it's like to be awake, and how our behavior is so different between those two states. We're just better humans when we're awake. We're better able to show the power of the unity of being when we're awake.
Yes. And experience the power of the unity of being. That's the only way we can experience that, except by accident.
And, you know, beyond like the highs of all the superficial stuff, getting likes on Instagram and winning $1 million and falling in love mutually with the hottest person you've ever seen, all of those are wonderful things. And hopefully we get to experience wonderful things in our lifetime. But those are just Baskin-Robbins mini taste tester spoons of what is possible.
Yeah.
Because the universe is a beautiful place. Why not be awake to that? That's my 2 cents.
That works for me. So, questions, thoughts, answers. And be aware that Nora will call on you.
Yeah,
And
I
Osama
want to
has a
hear from
question.
everybody today, but Osama, you can go first, sure.
Awesome. Thank you. How does one, or maybe can one fully understand context can one fully understand the moment in order to give the moment its proper due? How does one?
Wake up. That's how one does it. Be awake right now. You can do that right now. Right now, you can be awake. And the moment you find that awakeness, stay in your breath, and that will prolong it.
And here's the tricky thing. Whatever's going on in the now doesn't always seem great, exciting, beautiful, feel good, any of that. Why would you want to be awake to it? Because sometimes I would say it becomes easier to bear whatever it is. It does become easier to bear whatever it is when you're able to be awake to it. So whether the situation is good or bad, practicing presence, being awake to it, breathing through it, it's a skill worth having.
Yeah. What you said.
And when it comes to the school, understanding the moment, the context, the time, is it understanding the time in a broader sense or in a localized sense? Okay, here in this geographic or in the West, this is what's needed right now. So we are participating or we're engaging in this way because in the West, this is what the work requires. Where if this school was originated in Africa or Asia or some other part, would it take a different shape? Would it take a different?
It's both.
I mean, I was going to say it's both. Yeah.
It's both. Yeah. So the interesting thing about this is that we have several localized contexts. So we have Wael, who is in the Emirates, and he is beginning to share this material with people there. And it looks different than what it would look like here. Because remember, context includes the time, the place, the people, and the events. And those are going to be different in the Emirates than they are in California. Mustaqim,
I was thinking of Mustaqim.
Yeah, he lives in a different context entirely in Indonesia. And so the way he presents the work is going to be a little bit different. You are stuck in New Jersey. So it's going to be different the way you present it there.
Even different from how we would.
Yeah.
Given our backgrounds and life experiences and your backgrounds and life experiences. And it is both happening on the macro level and on the micro level that it has to reflect context.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question? Oh, we get a heart. Thanks, Osama.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
James, we haven't heard from you. What are your thoughts?
You've been quiet tonight.
I thought that would have been blessed relief, me not gibbering away throughout the whole thing. My many opinions. This is great. This is really, really pertinent stuff. One of the hesitations I always had was that I was told if you want to get involved in any kind of Sufi thing, you have to convert to Islam. And the only crowd I even heard of in Melbourne was exactly that. If you're not a Muslim, you're not doing it. And while I'm finding the cultural background fascinating, intriguing stuff, you guys don't make that compulsory.
No.
To a certain degree, there's some things you have to learn, but I don't know if I actually have anything to add to today's talk at all. Let me think. I can't say anything now that isn't what you haven't already said. Sorry, I'm not a big contributor today.
I actually think you said a lot in that you have brought attention to the fact that Mushtaq and I are Sufis. We are
Yeah, we're Muslims.
believing, practice Muslims.
Yeah, but we don't dress like Arabs.
Yeah.
Mm.
And of course, I need to be careful about practicing because people understand that in different ways.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. But this is something I learned from my last teacher. He taught through example in this and through experience. He said, I want you to go to this town and start a martial arts school. So, Ebola, and I go to the town and I start a martial arts school. And he says, don't talk about Islam. Don't talk about Sufism unless somebody asks you. Just minister to the people who come to you and train them as well as you can. And I would do that. And within about 3 months, I found that I had to do talks after class on Sufism because people were going, how is it that you do this thing? And I say, oh, it's a form of breath control. It's a breath practice. And where do I learn this breath practice? And then, so I got to, it's a Sufi thing. And they wanted to learn. The next thing you know, like 6 months later, I have a group of Sufis around me. And I never once, not even once, had to proselytize and say, you need to do this. They just wanted it.
And actually, that's another excellent point. And I don't mean to interrupt.
Interrupt, go ahead. I talk too much.
Consent and like being invited and getting to, take up on or refuse that invitation. That is really fundamental to our sense of ethics, that no one should have to do anything that they don't.
Yeah. In Islam, there is this idea called dawah. And that's basically inviting people to Islam. And my teacher used to say, the only dawah you ever need to do is to live your life in such a way that people would like to be like you.
Yeah.
Other than that, shut up. And that's exactly what he said. It's just shut up.
And I think that's, and as you've described us earlier, Mushtaq, we are non-dualist Sufis in the sense that what works for us, we don't believe that works for everybody, or that it should, that it needs to.
Yeah, everybody should be like us. What are you talking about?
Well,
please, my clones.
This sort of comes back to what brought me here. My initial exposure to Sufism, initial interest, was through what I've come to see as the very exotic works of Peter Lambton Wilson.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which I've come to have a somewhat ambivalent feeling about with the passage of time. So that was my initial, I sort of, I don't know about that. But I always had an awareness of Gurdjieff's fourth way since I was a teenager. And I think it was Bill Trumpler. He was posting videos from you guys, and you seem to have a combination. The more I watched, I thought, well, at least intellectually, I like this.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot from.
Yeah, we use
Gurdjieff's
his
work.
language.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's only fair since Gurdjieff drew so much from us.
So it seems really natural. It's language that is, I mean, some of it is pretty nebulous and strange, for lack of a better word, but it allows for linguistic linguistic bridge building
Yeah,
between the context of traditional classical Sufism and more modern European.
yeah, because that's
ways
what
of
Gurdjieff
thinking.
had to do. So
Yeah.
he had to take the stuff that he learned and recraft it for the people who he was working with.
Right. And as I reflect on my words, I don't mean to say that like Europe is more inherently modern so much as it was taking ancient concepts and bringing them to people who had never been exposed to that stuff
Yeah.
really before. So, yeah.
Okay. I don't have much to add on my end. Not at this point, anyhow. I like to think I was brought here by the three Wilsons: Peter Lambton Wilson, yeah, Colin Wilson, and Robert Anton Wilson.
Yeah, I can relate to
Good.
that. I love Colin Wilson. I love Robert Anton
Yeah.
Wilson.
I mean,
Good old Hakeem Bey, the stories I could tell. But he's damaged
Yeah.
goods. Or he was.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I loved Taz when I first read it.
Yeah,
right.
But
And,
there were
and
a few things in there that sort of made me go, this guy might be have
my
a few
first
personal
reading,
kinks
that
that I
exactly. I felt the same way.
yeah, as we used to say, he's about half a bubble lock plum.
okay.
Sure.
Someone's leaving.
I think someone has some kind of,
Oh, that was an election.
yeah, that's what I figured. No problem. So, Cherie, did I see you unmuted for a moment? No, okay. Who haven't we heard from?
We haven't heard from Nancy and we haven't heard from Owen. And we have not heard from Lavita.
Yeah, so,
Not that we have to hear from you, but we might like to.
I know, consent and all. Oh, and I would love to hear from you. Yay. What are your thoughts or questions?
We're impressed that you're still sticking around.
We see you're unmuted, but we're not hearing you.
You hear it now?
Yes, yay.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'm the youngest person here. I'm not sure.
But
I kind of grew up on the internet.
Mhm.
I've been attending a lot of different schools in a way, I think. Most of it's just whatever the internet decides to throw at me. I'm researching as much as I can. And I don't know, I felt the thing that draws me to all the teaching is kind of a feeling of synchronicity is one way to describe it. And I don't know, when you were talking about the teaching, I had an overwhelming feeling of that going on. And I don't know, I wasn't sure if it was obvious from my face when you were speaking, because I kept it unleashed a lot of emotions in me. It was
yeah,
weird.
your
Your camera
icon is
is-
pretty small.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever you feel comfortable sharing is meaningful to us. Yeah. So, yeah, did you have more you wanted to say?
Yeah, please say more.
I mean, there was a time where I was, well, I do have a lot of art that I do. It's basically before artificial intelligence had taken off with all the art that was generated, I was already researching that, and I didn't realize that it would actually be harmful to a lot of people, potentially by, just relativizing a lot of artistic work.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
but
it's an interesting dilemma.
yeah, it's something I didn't really think about. I just dove into it because it was interesting. And I made a bunch of stuff using it and kind of retrospectively realized, oh, some people might find this almost threatening in a way. And for that reason, I kind of just did a bunch of art for free for musicians I like. I made like music videos and stuff.
Nice.
And I don't know. And there was one point where I was driven to actually approach. Are you familiar with Entheon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried approaching them and saying like if I could, before all of it took off, I was asking if I could try engineering some kind of artificial intelligence art for them. I don't know why. It was just kind of something I felt inspired to do, and I don't know. I would love to be able to try and contribute something, but I don't know if that's something I would be able to do.
I think that you would be able to do it. I'm an artist myself. I've been a graphic artist since the 70s. And I absolutely love what AI is doing for art. You know, and you've probably noticed we use it a lot in our thumbnails and everything. The thing is, there is nothing that I've made with AI that I couldn't make on my own. I could, you know, I could sit down with Studio Max or something along those lines and craft the exact same thing. The difference is the time that it takes. And so I find it really useful to use Midjourney to create the basis of an image and then throw it into Photoshop or GIMP and manipulate it until it's exactly what I want. And so I think that there is a real possibility there to create real art that has real meaning using AI just as you would use a paintbrush, if that makes sense.
It definitely makes sense to me. It's what I hope to be able to do.
Yeah, well, you will get lots of support around here from that, at least from me, because I think that it's important. And the genie is out of that particular bottle.
Yeah, I mean, I have slightly different feelings and reservations about AI, but my understanding is also that the genie is out of the bottle. So we have to deal with what is, and we have to be flexible in our framing these things so that we don't end up getting stuck in the very things that I find we need to challenge, those senses of getting stuck in ideas about what should be, when really we have to work with what we find in front of us and respond to that in coherent, ethical ways.
And make it our own.
Yes.
When I started working with Midjourney, I discovered that I could give them an image to act as a catalyst. And so I gave them probably 300 images that I had actually produced that were my artwork, and said, and basically I trained that AI to make images in my style, which I thought was very cool. It knows my style now. So if I say, give me this, it gives me this in the style that I want, as opposed to just randomly.
So then it's collaborative. I mean, however we want to frame that, that is you allowing your work to guide the technology.
Yeah. And if you'd seen my pre-AI work, and I worked a lot in 3D Studio Max and that sort of thing, creating whole worlds. And what Midjourney produces looks like my work, which is kind of cool.
So I definitely think, Owen, that there are opportunities to contribute through that avenue. So please feel free to email us about that.
Yeah, and are you in our forum?
I think I'm part of, is that the Facebook forum or is there another?
Yeah, the Facebook forum.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to put your work up in the forum. There is more than just me as an artist. There's
Aaron.
Aaron and a couple of other people. There are several really good artists in the forum, some of which are working with AI,
Some of
which
them are not, yeah.
And you would get a strong positive support for what you're doing. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll explore that.
yeah, and I'd love to see your work anyway, so.
Lavita,
Yes,
would you like to
Lavita.
have any thoughts or questions?
Got to turn on your microphone.
There.
There you
Okay.
go.
No, not really. I think that I'm with James, and you probably should mark your calendar because between the two of us, we always have something to say. So the fact that we don't is like,
Yeah.
but I think what you said was very clear. So I don't really have any questions.
Well, that's excellent feedback, actually. Yes. Thank you.
Chris
Because,
had to take off. I'm
That's a
thinking
shame.
maybe his wife went into labor
oh
because
Ooh.
it's that close.
no.
Don't know for sure,
We
but
don't know,
yeah.
yeah. But one thing that we are striving for is to really clarify our message first and foremost, so that we can help people understand what we're about, so we can connect with those with whom that message resonates, and be able to work together in whatever capacity that ends up being, whether that is real world collaboration, whether it's doing one-on-one sessions, whether it's having great conversations on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it might be. All of that is really valuable to us. Yeah.
The chorus agrees with you.
Yeah. And as Mushtaq said in the beginning of this talk, like, we're working, we're on the next level. What do we mean by that?
Not even the next level, the next iteration.
Yeah, okay. So our next evolution.
Yes,
Yeah.
we like that word, evolution. Sounds
so.
so scientific.
To me, it sounds Pokemon, but I like Pokemon, so that works for me. Yes. Yep. This is not our final form, though. I refuse to believe that. So
No, definitely not our final form. There is a lot more coming.
yeah. Yes.
And
so,
Cherie,
Cherie.
yes.
This might help you, that I see you as life in action, the life example. So that living example helps the teaching come alive for people. So when people are wondering, what do you mean by work? But that is the key thing. It is work, and it means consistency. It means when you stumble, you pick yourself up, and how you dust yourself off, and how you've been able to speak of the things that have been super difficult in this last month in public, and not hide it away and gloss it over and say, oh, the work means we're all trying to be happy. We're not all trying to be happy. We're trying to get on with life and be adult about the experiences that come up. And that's the work. So work in action, being an example, being consistent, and not being hung up on the story. So when you were talking about everybody comes from a different place, and culturally we have different ways of expressing the work, that is very powerful. And Mushtaq and I know a particular teacher that I worked with for a long time, and he always said to me, don't repeat the story. Don't repeat the story. So your own personal story, it can be a barrier to someone else's learning, but also very much a barrier to yourself, because you're stuck on whatever it is that woe is me. So don't repeat the story. Don't even repeat the thing that you're proud of. And you think, wow, that actually just hones the work down into a more refined purpose and direction, so that you can always stop yourself from being overly distracted while you're doing the work. The end.
Yeah.
Dante used to say, no story, no suffering. There's a lot to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, speaking from experience, when everyone in the room is coming from that point of view where, okay, there's this story, but my attention is on this moment now. It is, I have no words for what that feels like, but we get to experience quite a bit of that when we do these talks. And it is one of those things where it's like, if we could all operate from that space the majority of the time, yeah, there would be a lot less suffering. There would be a lot more being with each other instead of being with our stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all we got for tonight.
It's a lot, but all of you have done a really great job of helping us flesh this out. I see Nancy, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I missed something. I did come in a little late, but what does leveling up mean for the school? Or is that the upcoming weeks?
That is the upcoming weeks, but what it means is we are going to be introducing new ways to get the content to people and to help people work with the content. And it should be fun. And it's all experimental. If we do something and it works really well, we keep it. If it doesn't work so well, we throw it out.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is, I mean, for me, I'll say honestly, it's a little nerve-wracking to be at a point where we want to try new things and mix things up, and we're still kind of fleshing out exactly what that will look like. But I also know that it is nice to be in the loop as things evolve, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is a community, so we do not want to just like have it be this weird overnight shift where we're like, oh, hey, we're doing all this new stuff that we haven't even like given you a heads up about. Like, this is more, you are our companions as much as we hope to be yours.
Yeah. If this
So-
is a boat, we're all on the boat together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or we are all in this caravan.
Yeah, the students are not simply your guinea pigs.
No, absolutely not. So, yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Thank you, Nancy.
Welcome.
Yeah, our students are our compatriots.
Yep. James has a thought.
James.
Well,
I
a
know.
quick question. Just want to make sure I'm not sort of getting too stuck in my own theories here. My assumption is that when you're really fixated with the story, when you're fused with the story, your essence doesn't have a chance to emerge and grow.
No.
It's so true. Yeah.
Right. Now, with the growth of essence and being able to live from that kind of unity, does it then become easier to sustain non-dual awareness?
Yes.
Do they like feed each other in
Yes.
some way?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, essence is your experience of non-dual awareness.
The word essence to me implies some kind of very idiosyncratic personal potential.
Yeah,
Have I got that completely?
yeah, you don't have it wrong. We're just describing it in different ways.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was it. That's my question. I just wanted to
Okay.
see if I was going off on a tangent or, yeah, that's it.
No, you're not any more nuts than the rest of us. You're good.
You don't know. You haven't met me face to face. You don't know what I could be hiding with my cunning skills.
It's true.
It's true. I believe it. But we like Anyway, James, yeah, so it's
Notice I'm giving you a thumbs up and not any other kind of gesture.
all right, so have we heard from everyone? I
We've heard from
believe we
everyone,
have.
yeah.
And so I guess we could go to Brady Bunch mode.
Yeah, let's go to Brady
We've
Bunch.
yammered on enough. Thank you for
Here we are.
all of your thoughts as well.
And
because,
whatever's
you know,
going on with you, Chris, wherever you are, we are
so-
hoping it's all good.
all right, we can wave to each other. Wave to everybody watching on the replay on YouTube. Thank you to everyone, and we will see you next week.
All righty.